Alright guys, how we doing? Today we're going to speak on a question that I've gotten many times and I've seen other people get many times, and then just something that's kind of floating around out there where more and more people want to become an instructor, partially because they see the glamorous, kind of glorious side of it that's like, oh man, I get to teach people how to shoot all day and like make money at it, and you know, it's appealing. Right? My hobby, my passion, whatever it might be, I can make money doing that. Like, that's incredible. I want to do that. I'm here to kind of show you, one, if you want to really do it, how to go about it, in my opinion. And then two, I want you to understand that it is not what you think it is, right? When I add up the hours invested versus the money I've made in the last 2.5 years, I'm right around $2 an hour. So get that, sunk in. Now that will start to really grow exponentially. That ratio will change because now I know what I'm doing. I've figured it out. I've outlined some classes. I've got my beginner template, my beginner outline, freaking crushed solid. I know how I explain all these concepts. I'm constantly learning better ways to do that. And all I have to do now is kind of refine and run, right? I built my 2-day class. I got my 1-day class, performance from concealment, and it doesn't matter, gear set. I've built it the way I built it so that it is sustainable and easy. But I also don't give like classes. I am a coach. In the most true sense of the word, my classes are coaching classes. I'm not an instructor. I am a coach, because the way I run the classes, I don't run actual big classes where we're online. I don't give you a curriculum or give you a packaged deal. Now I have an outline. I have exactly what I want to get to and what I want to teach and everything, but I run small, very small classes so that I can coach each individual person on that outline instead of just giving you the outline, right? Running you through the curriculum. I coach you through the curriculum at a one-on-one level, even if there's 4 or 5, 6 people. My limit for a 1-day class is 6 persons. Limit for a 2-day class is 8, and I wouldn't even do 8 if I didn't have you for 2 whole damn days. Anything more than that, I would need 2 assistant instructors. I mean, I just have a coaching philosophy that's completely different than the style of classes that we have grown accustomed to. Why? Because I went to a bunch of them and I didn't learn shit, right? Or I learned 1%, I got 1% better instead of getting 40% better, instead of having like a whole year's worth of homework and a whole year's worth of gains to bump up from that one class. I left, and like 2 weeks later, I'm like, I'm trying to think of what I learned in that class, like truly what I learned, and I can't think of it. So then I started thinking, you know what? I don't like the way this is being done. I'm gonna do it my own way a little bit. Now, second big point that I want to give you guys is, again, with that monetary ratio to hours, do not think that you are going to become a full-time instructor. Okay, the number of people that are pulling that off is very, very slim. The number of people that can do that right off the bat is almost none, 0%. Okay, you cannot just say, I want to be an instructor, therefore now I am. My company is called this and whatever, and now I'm an instructor. Because you will go broke, okay? The refinement and how you build it over the course of a couple of years, probably going to take you 5 years to get to where you want to be, depending on how much commitment and effort you want to put into it. For me, this is not really a full-time gig ever, or it really, I always thought of it like this. If it happens, it happens. Now a different opportunity has come up in my life that this is completely a part-time gig forever. There's no way I'm ever going to do this full time, because I'm going to make more money than I ever would doing this full time in this other endeavor. And it's also something I freaking would never have to work another day. But just understand that it is not like a plug and play. Now I'm an instructor. All of a sudden, fucking cash is rolling in. It ain't going to happen. So let's just talk about my steps and my things that I think each person. If you want to be a real deal instructor that gives people real deal value and does not steal fucking money from people, you're going to have to adhere to this and understand that it's not easy. Okay, there is so much work that you've got to do, and also understand that if you're not a natural talker, and you're not a natural leader, and you're not a natural teacher, you're going to have a harder time. Okay, if you want to build a package that's any good and you can't talk in front of people, or you can't talk without saying okay, 700 times, you're in trouble. Okay, it takes a lot to work that stuff out of you, and I'm constantly trying to work all that stuff out of me to the point where I can put together non-stop talking, non-stop rolling through things, and that's very, very hard. We'll talk about that. But if you're not natural at any of that stuff, you're gonna have a hard time. Okay, so understand right off the bat that you need to kind of check a couple boxes. Do I think I can do this? Period. You can't just become good at shooting, right? Michael Jordan, best basketball player, worst coach. Some of the best like moto coaches and boxing coaches that I've had over the year, couldn't box, couldn't ride. So it's a thing. Now this particular thing, you must get really fucking good. You can't quite do that unless you want to spend 25 years trying to get good at teaching this. The best way is to get good yourself. Then you know how you got good, and you can at least start with that, giving that to people. This is what worked for me. So I shouldn't have said some of that and put people in the wrong frame of mind. All right, first things first, you must find your lane, and you must stick to that lane no matter what. If you think you're going to teach firearms classes, but you're going to do half tactical shit and half like actual shooting, nah. That shit worked 10 years ago, right? All the tactical stuff and all the kind of blending the tactics and the shooting together because nobody knew any better. Nowadays, it ain't gonna work. Nowadays, the big instructors, the people that are on the rise, the people that are really doing classes where people are blown away, more on the competition side of the house, more on the performance shooting side of the house, where individuals are saying, okay, I didn't learn a bunch of shit that day. I just learned one thing, but we learned, like we got deep in that one thing, and I learned so much. So trying to teach a bunch of different shit, never gonna work. Now, I've been to a CQB class and a force on force class that was like, that was awesome. So there is a lane for that, but you better know some shit about that. You better have been in some fights. You better know some shit about that shit. Okay? You can't just all of a sudden say, I'm gonna go like learn this stuff and then I'm gonna do it. There's experience, there's things that need to be, there's boxes that gotta be checked for you to find your lane. You do not know what you do not know. You don't know how much you do not know if you don't know it. So when I started this, I found a technique that worked for me and I thought that was good. 6 months later, I'm doing something completely different, right? When I started taking training classes, I'm like, I know how to do CQB, right? I've taken a class on it. Just knowing a little bit about it lets me know how much I don't know about it, okay? So that's a motto that we want to basically tattoo to the inside of our eyelids, so that you understand that there is 700 layers to that onion, every single onion out there, okay? There is so many layers to it, and you don't know what you don't know. And I don't know what Ben Steger knows, who's been in the competition scene for 100 years, all right? I don't know what JJ Racaza knows. I don't know what tactical guys, I don't know what Mike Pannone knows. I don't know what Matt Prankin knows. I don't know what Matt Little knows. Like, I don't know what they know. Right? I know what I know. I know what this thing is. I know what that is. I know how to do this. I know how to do this. I can combine some shit and figure some things out. But that's my lane. And I'm going to freaking figure that out. And I'm going to stick to it. Like, so. Second thing is, get really good. Really freaking good. All right? Get really fucking good. That is a number one thing. Why? First, because you have to drive people to you, and if you're not good, who cares, right? Do I want someone to teach me how to draw in 1.5 seconds? No, that's not cool. I want someone to teach me how to draw in 0.7. I want somebody who can consistently get down. I want somebody who is up there, right? Now, beginners, this is one thing where beginner classes, people that think, oh, I want to be an instructor, I'll just teach beginners, so I only got to get to like this level above beginners. Like, I'm the best shooter in my range, or I'm the best shooter out of my friends. Time to be an instructor. No. You got to get really good, even if you want, again, this is if you want to be a real deal instructor, not Johnny Peterhead instructor at the range. That's like teaching the same old bullshit he's regurgitated for 100 years. He's, maybe still teaching Weaver and stuff. Like, that is not a real deal instructor. A real deal instructor is someone who changes, adapts, and is constantly learning themselves. They don't just learn a good way to do it and then say that's the way. All right? Get really freaking good, and then you start to realize, like, oh, there's 100 ways to do everything, and I've tried 90 of them. These ones work for me, but those other 90 will probably work for you and you and you and you, and we'll have to figure all that out. But then also, I don't just start teaching shit, because that's where regurgitation starts to come from. Someone that I agree with a whole lot on and is a phenomenal shooter instructor that I've trained with before, and we have a good relationship, is Scott Judlinski. Okay? Most people, when Scott says something, they all of a sudden think that's freaking dogma, and they're like, that's cool, that works, that's awesome, that made me better. Oh, nothing else works. I don't agree with Scott on a whole bunch of shit. Like, it's not like we disagree, but we just do shit differently, and we achieve the exact same results. Okay? Like, it's truly, there's layers to that onion, and it's all good shit. And when you hear people regurgitating other people's stuff, so you'll hear me always saying, like, I stole this from Scott, I stole this from Gabe White, I stole this from Ben Stager, this from JJ, this from Mike Zieglander, this from whoever. You always hear me kind of saying that, but that's because I have like 4 million of those, right? And they're all different from different. All right, well, this person in this situation would say this. This person in this situation would say this. And these two would say these two things that juxtapose each other, but both of them works. We need to figure out which one works for you, right? I'm not going to tell you how I do things or what works for me. I'm not just going to tell you that. I'm going to tell you what works for this person, this person, this person, or how this person teaches it a little bit, and we'll try to figure it out. So, immerse yourself in the material so that you have that 4,000 different things for each thing. Like, there's never a problem or something that comes up when someone's trying to figure out how to run this thing better where I'm just like, squeeze the gun harder? Pull the trigger without moving the sights, maybe? Like, dude, you're not a real deal motherfucker then. Sorry. But yeah, so immerse yourself in the material, get all these different things, learn shit from every angle, right? And take it. And not just what works for you, what works for other people as well, because people's hands are different, people's brains are different, people's eyeballs are different. That's some of the fun of teaching, period. But let's go back. Get really freaking good. Immerse yourself in the material. Stay in your lane, but immerse yourself in other material as well to know how your lane is applicable to other lanes. You don't need to be a subject matter expert in CQB to teach people how to shoot. But I do need to know a couple principles of CQB or a couple of things that standard operating procedures for law enforcement or this or that that's going to apply when it comes up. When I get that student in the class, I'm going to have to say, all right, Billy Bob, I know how you guys probably have to do this and that. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. This is what will apply to that. This is how we'll wrap you around it. There's many, many ways to do all this shit, and we have to immerse ourselves. And I'm talking about balls deep in this stuff. So, where are we at here? Okay, now this, right here, This one is going to be your biggest, maybe. Speech. The ability to talk, the ability to stay on point, the ability to go off on a tangent, come back to what you were talking about, the ability to do all that is extremely difficult. Some people are naturally more better at it than others. I mean, it's difficult. You sound like an idiot sometimes. Sometimes I'll be in the middle of saying something and straight up be like, I just completely forgot what I was talking about. I'm sorry. We'll come back to it. I'll figure it out. It'll hit me in a minute. It just happens. It's difficult. It really is. So the more you can practice it, the more you can work on it, the more you can read books about it, the more you can film yourself. And then we'll get to kind of advertising, YouTube channels, Instagram, stuff like that, where you're actually giving people a taste not only of you and your personality, but also what you're actually giving out and your ability to talk about it. I can't just watch someone shoot and be like, oh, I want to take a class from that guy. Like, there's plenty of really good shooters. I want to take a class from the one that knows how to talk, right? The one that doesn't say the same thing, or something like that over and over and over again. Someone that says over and over. And there's techniques and things that you can use. Little pauses. Everyone fills pauses with or right or, I do it too. Trust me, I have little idiosyncrasies to my speech patterns and shit that drive me nuts. Where I hear it on a video and I'm like, I said that 3 times in 30 seconds. It's aggravating, but that's all part of this. You're spending 8 hours with people. If you keep saying the same words over and over again, they're going to start to get aggravated. Some people may not realize it, some people might, and it just kind of, you can't do that. So, stuff like that, you got to get rid of that right away. Then there's ways to learn more connecting words. Like I say one all the time. I say so. So we're doing this, and we'll get to this, and then when we get done with this, we go in here, and when you do this, this happens, and blah blah blah. So, and that's how I kind of go from thing to thing. You can say okay, or right. Or tracking, like, are you guys tracking, or do you know what I mean here? But you don't want to use the same one over and over and over and over and over again. And you damn sure can't say You're not going to hear me through the course of this entire video say more than once or twice. I try never to say it. And that's, I'll just stop talking and space it for a second rather than saying okay? Okay, that's another one. That would get you out of a lot of trouble. All right? So, shit, I just said, mastering adult learning. Teach, demo, practice, review. That's your basic adult learning kind of template. So, learning that, you'll start hearing this shit now that I've talked about it. But when you listen to people, really listen to how they talk and how well they can put shit together and keep everything rolling. But the adult learning theories and adult learning template and all that, it's fairly simple, but then you read articles, you read books about it. I've read so many articles and studies on adult learning. It's interesting shit. You have to, if you want to be the real deal, again, you have to love the art of teaching. And I truly don't give a shit what I am teaching. I love to teach people how to operate equipment better in my normal job. I love it. I love to teach people how to ride dirt bikes better. Love it. Do a lot of that. Private classes with kids and my buddies' kids and stuff. Do it all the time. Love that shit. Guns, no different. I love to teach on a level that I almost can't help myself. Literally last night at the gym, there was 4 young kids and they came back into the boxing area and I was about to start touching the bag, working out, and they were trying to work the speed bag and hitting it and stuff, and we just, bullshit, and naturally next thing you know, they were there for a freaking whole hour. They were done with their workout. They just came back there to mess around. And next thing you know, they were there with me for a whole hour as I taught them 1s and 2s. How to throw a jab, how to throw a right hand. I'm holding the mitts, I'm sweating balls, I'm like working with all these kids. That it just, you have to be a natural teacher to want to do it, and then you also have to know when not to, or when to turn that off, and not be like, hey man, you're letting the gun do that, or every time you turn around, because some people just don't give a shit. Okay, unsolicited, not cool. If you read the room, kind of like I did last night, I just kind of, was bullshitting with the kid first, and then eventually it was like, yeah, all you got to do is kind of this, and then next thing you know, an hour later we're freaking banging mitts. It happens like that. So you gotta really enjoy it at a core level to teach. And if you enjoy it, you'll be good at it. You'll get better at it. I can truly tell you that I've gotten way better at speaking in public, for sure. Speaking to a camera, I mean, there's a lot of awkwardness and weird shit you got to work out of yourself. Even though I was a good talker before and a boss at my job, so I'm always delegating, I'm always talking about what we're doing or whatever, and I can talk in front of a group of people, no big deal. But there's a difference to it. It's, and talking to a camera is very difficult. Everybody thinks that they can be a YouTube star, or everybody thinks that they can get on camera and explain shit better than the next guy. Go ahead and try. It's freaking difficult to talk to a lifeless thing. And one thing that I do to practice this, which I know we're still talking about speech and shit, but it's the most important thing, really. Communication. What I do to practice this is, while I'm dry practicing, going through my own stuff, I'm like talking to the wall, right? Sometimes I'll just simply start bullshitting about a topic, or I'll be watching a video and somebody will say something kind of interesting, and I'll just start talking about it. And for 20 minutes, I'll talk straight to the wall and be like, I'll just act like there's a class in front of me, and how I would talk about that topic, or something completely new, or how I would wrap my head around something else. Podcasts, things like that. Every once in a while, I'll pause the podcast and think, how would I say that in my words instead of how that person just said that, because I like that, right? I want to steal that kind of in some way or another, and we'll get to that, as in making things your own. So you have to practice that in order to find the nuances to it that then takes it from regurgitation to yours. And also you have to know how to do it, right? You can't just regurgitate what someone else says and then not be able to physically do it, or whatever it is, or get down. So I, one, have to make it my own by physically being able to do what I'm teaching, and two, I have to make it my own by figuring out a way to put it in my own words and make shit on point as far as that goes. Learn from every angle. So this, reading books, all that stuff, more time, more unpaid hours. Speech, more time, more unpaid hours. Learning all the material all the time, more unpaid hours. And then making things your own. Not regurgitating, like I said. Or wait, I just talked about that. See, it's difficult. Learning from every angle. That's where I already touched on it, but where you're not just, okay, I took a class from this person and I really liked the way they talked about this. So now I'm going to use that, and I'm going to just go with that because that works for me. What worked for me 2 years ago in my own shooting is not the way I do it now. So I'm constantly evolving as a shooter, and that's where that get really freaking good, because you're always getting better and better and better, and pushing till your skill level is as high as you can possibly get for as much commitment you can put into it and hours you can put into it. When you do that and you keep pushing and keep pushing, you start to realize, like, oh, how I did things 2 years ago at this level of my journey is not the way I'm doing them now. But I used to teach this, but I'm not using it now because I think there's better ways, and not only better ways that work for me, but I think there's better ways, period. These concepts as a set of concepts or a set of principles is a little bit better than these ones. And for different people, we might be able to still pick and choose and use from these ones, but man, you got to evolve, rapidly evolve, and learning from competition, from tactical, from force on force, from CQB to all this shit, just to teach your skinny lane You must then learn from the entirety of everything involved. Gear, what gear is good, what gear limitations, what limits your actual physical abilities when you're wearing certain gear, so that when you're teaching a cop or teaching military or teaching a private security person that's wearing a suit all day or some shit like that, you've got to learn all these different ways to make this stuff applicable. It's difficult. Okay, and I get the gamut. Last class, a couple days ago, 2 guys, an SF medic, retired, and the other dude did diplomatic security and all this other stuff, and but they're retired now. They just want to get better at shooting for fun, for competition, and better at concealment work because they're retired. EDC. They used to run around with guns and stuff on the hip and long guns. Now they're running around with a G48 stuffed in their drawers, right? We want to be slick on that shit. So now the focus has changed. We want to be good at competition just because, right? And the better we get at doing work when the gun's out here in front of our face, the better we'll be at every other damn thing that ever comes up. So understanding your lane is here. You don't want to get out of it as far as the teaching, but you damn sure want to get out of it as far as the learning. So let me think if there's anything that I didn't cover. Small classes versus big classes. I touched on, I want to be a coach, 100% a coach. That's why I do small classes. And I think that small classes and you really learning the intricacies of each individual person and how they learn. And the stuff that I taught to Jim Bob last week doesn't work for Peter the next, right? 2 different people, I give them the same stuff kind of, and one just soaks it up like a sponge, and the other not quite getting it, okay? So now, if I only got one set of concepts or one thing that I think is good or one thing that I use for this and one thing that I use for that, is Peter getting his money worth? No. So I need to learn how each individual brain works and be able to adapt on the fly and say, all right, you don't like that? Let's try this. Let's try this on for size. This concept comes from our good friend Gabe White, or this concept comes from our good friend Steve Fisher or Mike Pannone, or this is something JJ Ricazza talks about that's a little different than how I personally do it, but he seems to like it. It seems to work well for him. So, dude, there's so much to it. So much. If you want to be the real deal, you must put in the real deal amount of work behind the scenes that nobody ever sees. Stupid people will make stupid comments and they will think that this thing is one thing, but it, I assure you, is not. It is the other. Okay? I can't think of anything really else off the top of my head, so take her easy. If you want to do it, I would recommend not going the route of like getting your NRA certifications and stuff. I personally don't want to do that because I don't want to teach that, and I want to do things a little differently. If you're going to be full-time or maybe work at a range or something, I guess you probably have to, but for me personally, as a part-time thing, I'm never going to have the time to kind of do those classes. I would rather fill those open weekends with teaching the stuff that I really enjoy, which is just the shooting, just the actual guns in our hands stuff. Now, whether it's beginner or advanced stuff, that doesn't matter. So take her easy. Hope that helps anybody who wants to get into it.